So my next guest, I absolutely love this guy. I got to spend a little bit of time on the phone with him before we had this, and actually, like, he called me the next day. He's like, "I want to talk to you some more." And he and I think we're kindred spirits to some extent. Like, he thinks like I do. We kind of act the same. This is gonna be a pretty cool episode. You're gonna like this one. Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the Gamerpreneur podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bradford Carlton. Today I have a very special guest with us. I have Matthew Snyder, founder and CEO of Mainstage Gaming Network. Hey there, Matt. How's it going?
Hey, it's going well. Thanks for having me on here. And how are you?
I'm absolutely fantastic. It's a beautiful sunny day in Las Vegas. How about yourself?
It's actually a nice day. I'm over just below Charlotte, North Carolina, and Rock Hill, South Carolina.
Very nice. It's usually pretty warm, although a little humid.
2 days ago it was 40, and I think today it was 80. So it's you never really know what you're gonna get.
All right. So Matt, why don't we just begin by you telling us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Okay. I was born actually in Jersey. Grew up avid gamer, starting with Sega Genesis and going through actually every Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo console except for the Super Nintendo. And went to college, studied exercise science and human performance. And since then, I've done a little bit of everything under the sun, from telecommunications engineering, government relations, consulting. And I ended up starting a company, Mainstage, in the beginning of 2018, and am still currently working on that.
Fantastic. And there's a lot to unpack there. And we'll do that in a couple minutes. But first, I'm going to ask you the same question I ask all of my guests. You just told me you've been watching my show. So you know what this is.
I do.
1 to 10, 10 being high, how weird are you, Matt?
So the first time you asked someone this question, my brain immediately went to is, how do you quantify weird?
And everybody has their own definition.
I'd say maybe 7 or 8.
Okay, why would you say that?
Because I don't necessarily make an attempt to fit in, and that is apparently weird.
Okay, I think all the greats don't attempt
play video games.
Their own thing.
I think anime has a stigma to it that may or may not be weird, but I enjoy watching that. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. So you kind of gave me a little bit about your gaming cred already. And I feel for you never having a Super Nintendo, because some of the best games ever made were on Super Nintendo. But what first led you to play a video game in the first place?
Okay. So it was my 5th birthday, and I was given a Sega Genesis and the Sega 6-pack. So it was Sonic and Streets of Rage, Golden Axe. I can't remember them all. There's a racing game that was not fun, but that kind of led to it, and I was just hooked.
Cool. Now, do you play anything now, or are you too busy?
I just finished the Final Fantasy VII remake. So I try to take maybe 1 to 2 weekends a month and play for a couple hours here and there, but it's hard. I wish I could play video games. I mean, Valorant looks extremely fun. I want to try that out. I have quite a long list of games I want to try out.
I got to ask, did you play the original FF7? Okay,
I
spoiling anything.
I played and beat the original Final Fantasy on my cell phone, my PlayStation, my Nintendo Switch, and my Xbox. I thought they did an amazing job, and I think that's, first off, like, that Final Fantasy being the first true game with a real story and real characters that you could get emotionally attached to. Like, I thought that's why it's my favorite game. It changed video games, but it's Square. They really don't let down. They really put out some quality games every single time, and I don't know, the first announcement was like 2012 about a remake, and it's been delayed and delayed and delayed, but I am okay with that. I was not disappointed whatsoever.
Oh, that game was absolutely gorgeous. Like, every detail was just beautiful.
Yeah, it brought back so many. It was an emotional game. Like I didn't tear, but it was awesome. And I know they announced that they're doing a second remake. So maybe in the next 8 to 10 years, I can continue the story. Hopefully, they have the rest of the
Right. Give
story
us another
because
decade, we'll get the next one.
yeah, I can't. I don't. Man, I don't want to spend like 24 years. There's 3 discs, so 24 years to finish this up. You know, it's another 16 years of game development for 2 parts.
Okay. One more kind of gaming related question, then I really want to dig into your professional history here. If you were stuck on a desert island and you had one game, a power cable, and an Ethernet cord, what game is it?
With that Ethernet, would I get to play with other people on this island, or am I stuck by myself?
You
I get to play
others,
with other people. The same game. Oof. I have to go. Can we hypothetically say there's going to be a lot of people playing it always?
Sure, always. The server will never die.
Halo 2.
Okay. That's a decent one. Okay.
Yeah, it kind of being primarily a console player, because my parents weren't a fan of the internet. They kind of had that stigma that it's evil, and Halo 2 was kind of a big game changer for console.
Oh, for sure. I was in college when I first started playing World of Warcraft, and I remember my parents like catching me playing it one day, and they're like, "You got to be careful of strangers online."
I got my parents' computer a virus, so I used to play classic Warcraft. And I found out about the multiplayer, and without knowing, I was maybe 10, and I was downloading mods. So I actually played Dota 2 pre-Dota when it was still multiplayer Warcraft. But I ended up getting my parents' computer a virus, and they weren't about video games on computers anymore.
I love it. Okay, let's get into your professional background, because you basically have worked for every entity you possibly can, it sounds like.
Quite a few. So I guess I started working while I was in college to help push myself through it financially, and all that experience was in the restaurant industry as a server and a bartender. I also interned for a trade association while I was in college in DC, and that was a very valuable experience. Learning the government relations aspect of business. They're very, very intertwined, and I don't think a lot of people kind of realize that. And after college, I actually got hired by my fraternity and worked for the headquarters. So I would travel to a fraternity chapter at a university, and I'd work with the guys on their business. I would assess 10 areas of business operations, and then give them recommendations for improvement on certain areas, whether it's recruiting or finance or marketing, raising their GPA, building study sessions, and then help them implement those plans moving forward. From there, I went to the University of Alabama's MBA program, and actually lived in the chapter house there of the fraternity that I worked for, which I'm gonna hopefully haven't said and keep anonymous.
Sure.
And that was interesting, being an in-house consultant, but I was also a graduate assistant for the insurance and annuities class. After that, I actually withdrew from Alabama to start Mainstage, but in getting started, I needed to get a job, and I worked as a telecommunications engineer.
Okay. I think we talked about this. Were you qualified to have that job?
Absolutely not. I applied, 200 job applications, turned into 50 to 60 interviews. And again, like I said earlier, I don't really try to be liked. I just tried, I'm myself. I'm as authentic as you get, and I try to be the best at things I do. And that will not get you a job. You become a bad culture fit when you do that. So, going into a job, really needing this, talking to him, he's like, so, talking to me about physics, can you do this? I was like, I can do this. This is cake. I was like, CAD, I've used CAD a ton. And they're like, okay, you got this job. And I was like, shit, I don't know anything about physics, and I need to figure out how to use CAD. So, those next 2 weeks were a lot of reading, a lot of learning. And the reason you need it for that, so with power lines, they weigh a lot, and you have to get the right amount of slack, the right amount of pole. Like if you have to building where the fiber doesn't exist, you have to get the right pole size, pole height, and the right leads put in. So like it's a lot more in depth when you just look at these power lines like that. There's a huge scientific process behind that. Luckily, my undergraduate studies was very science and math heavy, so it's just formulas. It wasn't too bad.
Okay, wonderful. Then you started Mainstage, the gaming network. And can you please tell us a little bit about that, please?
Okay, so I went back to Winthrop while I was at Alabama for homecoming and was talking to a friend. And at the time, he was a recruiter for an esports team. And that was actually the first time I heard of esports. And I was like, okay, what's an esport? How do you do this? And I was like, I know for a fact there's nowhere to find a good gamer. I've Googled it, I've looked. I was like, is there something new? Is there a LinkedIn for esports? And he freaked out. And he was like, oh my God, that'd be so great. He was like, I spend pretty much all my time on Twitter looking for people that get retweeted a lot. And I go to Twitch to see if they have a lot of followers. And, you know, he's looking for a competitive gamer to win. And I told him, I was like, so how many leads do you get? Like, what are you finding? He goes, maybe we'll find 2 good leads a month. And I was like, 2 leads for talent a month? And he was like, yeah. And I just got really honestly a gut instinct, like there's a knot in my stomach. And I went back to Alabama and I skipped all my classes the next week learning about esports, and was talking to the supervising professor for my GA position and kind of ran things by him. And he told me that I should just go do it, and told me to go talk to the dean. And so I went and sat with the dean and told him what I was working on and what I was doing. And he goes, well, let me make this easy for you. I'll save your scholarships and your TA position in case you need to come back. So I left that day, drove to my parents to figure out where I wanted to go, because I really had nowhere to set up shop. So I went back to Rock Hill, where I went to undergrad and have lived the longest, because I had the most prominent individuals and the bulk of my network was there. And so that's what it started as. And this is November of 2017. February of 2018 is when I quit being a telecommunications engineer and, budgeted out the next 12 months and was like, I'm going to figure this out or not. So having no technology education or experience and only those 3 months of MBA education and experience, I think I was a little behind the 8 ball there. So
can you kind of explain, how did you even begin? Like you said, you didn't have the technology background, so you weren't gonna be able to program this yourself unless you learned how. You didn't really know esports because you just found out about that. Like, what did you do? What was the process of becoming an entrepreneur?
My best friend, who's CTO, his name is Scott Richardson. We went to college together, and he's a bad culture fit as well. So we spent a lot of time. We wouldn't study during the day. We would stay up at night, all-nighters. I think both of us have ADHD, and there's just less distractions at night. And so we would always talk to each other about what we were learning. So I didn't know how to program, but I understood, I had a good understanding of the limitations and theoretical applications of computer science and technology. So I guess that kind of helped me out a good bit. But in starting this, I actually started researching the history of every sport that was ever played professionally or for money. Because this is a competitive sport with professional leagues, and the past usually kind of comes around and repeats itself. And I saw that, the game developers were hiring executives from professional sports. So I felt it would be best that I start with learning how what happened. And it's really interesting that formed the foundation of really the underlying strategy behind everything. Goes back to that. And because it's all based off of the sports consumption model, which is half the media rights and advertising. And that's why all the leagues currently, in my opinion, are being built the way they're built. So that, moving forward, I'm looking at everything that's going on, and I find esportsearnings.com, and I go there, and it says that there's only 19,000 people who get a chance to play in these live events for money. And I was like, live events? I was like, I used some social media tools on Twitter to figure out how many people were using the Call of Duty retweets to find a team or find a player, find a sponsor, find an event. And I mean, there's like 1.2 million unique American Twitter accounts asking to find a team or something every day, and only 19,000 people getting that opportunity to do what they're trying to do. And I was like, how do I get more people the opportunity to play in a live event for prize money? Because to get recruited on these pro teams and whatnot, you need that live event experience, that LAN experience. That's one of the critical recruiting factors that come with it. So trying to figure out that over a period of time, then, I need capital. I need to hire an engineer. So I honestly I Googled a lot of questions, LinkedIn. I read a lot of articles. I checked earlier today. I think I read 85,000 articles on LinkedIn last year.
Wow. That's a lot of articles.
Yeah. I mean, from the time I withdrew from Alabama till today, I've worked at least a minimum of 130 hours a week, like every week nonstop. And I'd say a lot less now, but starting out, 75% of that was reading and learning and taking notes, and just really figuring out. I think the hardest part was the jargon of business, and it's language that comes with it. That I think learning that was the most difficult part, because it was hard to figure out the math of financials without understanding what, an equation, what goes where, and
sure.
And then getting capital. So I spent a lot of time, I use Apple products, and there's a design tool called Sketch, and learning how to make an interactive prototype. So there's I can't remember the exact, it was Hacker Noon, how to be a good non-technical founder. And there was something on there from a guy, his name's Ryan Hoover, he's the CEO of Product Hunt, and it was his product requirement documentation that he used to get funding. And I pretty much downloaded that and learned how to do absolutely everything on that document. And one of them was screenshots of how Product Hunt at that time would work. So I was like, okay, I need to design how this will look and work. And at the end of that year, it's actually Christmas Eve, I got a call from a guy who's been a mentor of mine. And I originally asked him for feedback. I knew he invested in companies, but I felt that the advice was more valuable than becoming business partners. And he goes, he goes, what you're going to do is you're going to ask me to invest in your company. You're not going to talk to me again. He goes, you've been leading me on for months and teasing me about what you're working on. And he said, I want you to ask me for money right now. And I did. And, like second or third day of January, just a bunch of money in the business account, and hired engineers and kind of went through that process, and could have went to market a couple times, but decided not to, just because the amount of venture capital that was going into startups in the seed stage, which is usually around the beta era, is ridiculous. It was going up by 1,000% a year. There in 2018, there was, I think, $4.1 billion invested. And, I see like new startups every day. I couldn't keep up with them all. And the whole focus was like location based. So ended up having to make some hard choices and pivot away from technology to location based gaming events where I live in Rock Hill. And I thought that Nintendo Switch was the best investment for that. So we spent money and got a bunch of Nintendo Switches and Mario Kart, Smash Brothers. And I mean, the choice behind that is the cheapest. It's the easiest to get, and the Switches connect Bluetooth. So I don't need internet, and it's cheap and portable. So I could do events at sports bars, like trivia night. I could do them at my apartment complex's little movie room. I could go anywhere with these. And out of game titles like Mario, Super Mario is the most popular media brand, period. And I think by double. second. It's bigger than Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse. It's Mario's it. Like it's impressive. And the Mario Kart, out of all game devices, consoles, platforms, out of all the games on them, more people, a higher percent of people who own a Switch own Mario Kart than any other game. I think like 51.8% of Nintendo Switch owners own Mario Kart. So I felt that was my best statistical chance to get the most people to participate locally.
Okay. Hey, Matt, can I pull back for a second? What exactly does Mainstage do?
Okay, so we're building a technology platform that will simplify location-based gaming events. So it's pretty simple. So people will be able to create leagues, tournaments for any type of game, and then users will be able to log in and list what they play, what they do, and what they want to do. And where those intersect is the organizers will know what the local community does, and gamers will be able to find people to team up with and participate.
Okay, so is this going to be geographically isolated, or is this worldwide, or at least in America?
We are connected. We're using Google Maps data. So it's anyone in the world there's enough people in your local community on the platform who want to do the same thing. You can find them and do that. But if you want to do online events, you're not limited to just finding local people. We're just making it possible because there's nowhere to find that.
Okay, fantastic. Now, that seems like it's going to be a mountain to climb to get enough people onto this platform. And you and I have talked extensively about marketing. So how exactly are you planning on marketing this platform?
I will do the best I can to divulge as much information as I can. Because it's running the numbers on that. It's, what's my customer acquisition cost? How much money is it going to take for me to get individuals? And it's the chicken or the egg. Users need organizers to have events. Organizers need events for users. So who do I go for first? Organizers. And the reason for that is because we want them to have a good experience. The organizers focus on the participants' experience, so we need to focus on the organizers' experience first. And we actually started testing, in-house testing, and we're going to be doing a private beta once I kind of make sure this is working the way I want it to work and simplify it. So I used every event organizing platform, I think, on the internet, across ones that don't use for esports and ones that are for esports. And TeamSnap is my favorite out of, I think, the 50 or 60 platforms I tried out. I mean, I paid for the premium features. I wanted to see what this thing could do under the box. And there wasn't a single user interface I liked. And after doing hours and hours of design and redesigning Mainstage, I think there's 8 versions, complete redesigns, because I didn't like them when I was done. And it wasn't clean enough, wasn't easy to use. It wasn't smooth, it wasn't simple. And I just didn't like any of them. So I kind of figured out and I conducted a lot of market surveys to figure out what people wanted, a lot of them. And I went on LinkedIn and typed esports up in the search bar, and I think I DM'd maybe 3,000 people with that there, and conducted a lot of informational interviews on the phone to figure out what their issues were. And so, once I have this huge list of issues and what people like to use for organizing platforms, talking about marketing strategy, I figured out where the pain was and what people are doing to I guess, limit that. So looking at the gaming demographic, they're heavily on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, Discord. Unfortunately, those aren't the best with marketing, and I'm not a big fan of paid ads. So it's high risk, high reward, but it's important when it comes to marketing. You post something on Facebook and you make it, well, you can't really even see the analytics of what you got, but just putting $1 into a Facebook post, you'll have 100 people engage with it. Just $1. So, you put a YouTube video out and you've got a good following, you put $1 into that, that could be an extra $1,000. Or you're streaming on Twitch and you're making enough money on Twitch. You make an ad saying, hey, I'm live on Twitch, and you put that thing on Facebook, people are gonna be like, oh, this Twitch streamer's marketing ads on Facebook, they must be huge. They're gonna click it and you're gonna get a view. And now your job is, okay, view to follow. Now follow to subscribe. So with Mainstage, we're looking for a lot of people locally. So in doing that, we go to the parks and recreation. Growing up, I did Little League sports. Little League sports started with city ball or anything of that sort, whatever sport, physical sport you played. So we went to there and spent couple weeks explaining what esports are. It's hard to grasp, but I guess depending on the situation, I don't take no for an answer. And I kept calling and kept calling and kept calling. I would email the mayor and eventually got to the city. And what do you know? They have an email list with like 1/4 of the local population on it. Great. Let's get an interest survey out there. And, we do, and it comes back and 93% of the participants said they would participate in a local gaming league or event. And then of those who had kids, I think it was 89% would allow their kids to play and register them.
Those are incredible numbers. Like,
I know.
Is gaming really that like widespread?
I mean, the stats say that 77% of Americans play video games 5 hours a week, and 67% play 5 hours a day. I think it is that big. And I think it's also the fact that it's new. It's, you know what I mean? Like, basketball's been around forever and everywhere has basketball, but you see Twitch, and I mean, Twitch last year in March to this year in March had an increase of 1 billion hours watched. It's like 1.3. Their viewership, gaming's up by 90% right now. And that's why everything's going down. That's why Nintendo's going down, and the increase of traffic, concurrent traffic like that, puts it's compromises the security, and that's why the breach happened to Steam. So it's all at once too. So the technology aspect of this, I don't know. I like it. I think it's really cool that gaming is getting popular, but I got kind of off track there. But back to the marketing strategy, I'm trying to think individuals between the ages of 16 and 25, that like 90% of them apparently play games according to Pew Research. How do I get to them as quickly as possible for as cheap as possible? High schools, recreation department colleges. So I start reaching out to intramural programs, campus activities, athletic departments on campus. I reach out to the school district, the state department of education, and recreation departments, and I just begin lobbying and lobbying and lobbying, and I don't stop. So I'm not sure if they really want to do esports or they want me to leave them alone, but they've agreed to do at least a community interest assessment and survey, which that's all I wanted.
Okay, what you're doing is incredible. You're just hammering it. You're just not giving up. It sounds like that's the strategy, is just don't give up, go after your dreams.
Yeah, that. And I mean, I don't have a plan B. Plan B just distracts from plan A. So it's going to happen. And I fully believe that too.
Okay, let me ask you this. What's unique about you? Like, why are you the one who's able to pull this off when there's, millions of other people who are sitting there wishing they could do the same thing?
I mean, they can. I
know they can, but why are you able to do it?
Abe, I think chose was the big one. I mean, it's been hard. It's been really hard. There's a lot of sacrifices that had to be made, and go out, do I go out? All my friends are gonna go out for dinner. You wanna go out to a baseball game? You wanna go out? No, I gotta work. It's really, really, really easy just to be comfortable. And it's really, really, really easy to not put yourself in a position to be judged by others or to look like a failure to others. And like, let's be straight honest. I had no experience, no education starting this, not enough money, behind the eight ball, rarely heard of esports. Like, okay, yeah, that's good luck, kid. And I think getting called a bad culture fit pissed me off enough to where I was going to do it. So, I mean, I guess, I don't know. I don't really think they're friends anymore for the individuals who don't talk to me or respond anymore, because I wouldn't go drink or get drunk. I don't know. I made a choice that I was going to do it, and I'm just going to do it.
Okay, that's fantastic. Just be yourself. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now this has been a journey for you, and I'm always trying to find ways to relate it to my audience. You know, what can we get out of this interview that's going to help others? So what kinds of resources are you using that are helping advance you and move forward?
Okay. A to-do list. I think a to-do list, it has been the biggest thing. The most important thing I've done this whole entire time was read. I always have something I want to learn. I use iPhone, and in my notes app, I have pretty much a need to learn list. And I just go down that list. Every morning I spend an hour and an hour and a half just learning something new. I mean, from anything from about string theory or some theoretical physical concept, or tarot cards. I learned about tarot cards, and just everything. I don't really like to limit what I learn, or it's a conversation topic that I can use. But there's always a reason for something being there. And I firmly believe that all these reasons, you know, different things are connected in some way, shape, or form. But tools, like a lot of software tools, you know, in college and high school, in college we used Blackboard. That was really at Blackboard, and Google Drive. But high school, there weren't no real tools to use. Like, you're lucky to get a calculator. And, excuse me. You know, I start learning about business tools, software. And I jotted a little list down, and of the free ones. So I start using software, and I kind of went down a huge rabbit hole and distracted for a while. And I've tried maybe 150 different types of software, from a single sign-on password to where all my apps on my phone are everything. They just go into there, and it logs in with that. I've tried project management, to-do lists, conversation applications, no code web app builders, because I figured I'll just do it myself. Everything. But I think the most valuable ones to me, Trello is, there's to-do list boards, and it's a free version. And I mean, I organize everything in there now. It's honestly, I wish I had it in school, especially for research papers. Being, you know, with a science related degree, you can create a topic and just list everything there. It's a structure. Medium.com, it's a blog and publication. So I'd learn a lot on Medium, actually. Most everyone on there sources their work. So, you know, you got their perspective on a topic, but then the sources for like the science behind the facts. And for $5 a month, you could become a Medium publisher, and, you know, you can make money doing that. So like, if I had a large gaming community in a Discord or following on Twitter, I mean, I'd be on there writing at least something every day or every week, because you have a huge following. That's money. That's income. If this, then that. It's ifttt.com. It's an automation tool. So you could connect your Facebook with your Twitter and your Instagram. And every time you posted something on Twitter, it will automatically post it on Instagram by taking the photo off and readjusting where the text is. And on Facebook, it'll just post it there. So it's a trigger and action app. You can integrate thousands of apps and connect them with, hey, if this happens here, then that happens wherever. So if you see these retweet accounts on Twitter, if I get mentioned, I retweet it. So that's how all the retweet accounts are actually made, is using if this then that. Or I needed a little more power behind the hood, and I use does the same thing. It's called Zapier. It is the most valuable tool. I think I definitely use Bitly for social media posts. It's a link shortener, and it helps you track how many people click your links on your posts. And especially across different platforms. For Twitch stats, Sully Gnome, SULLYGNOME.com. With that, you can, it's a really in-depth Twitch analytics and statistics website. So you can see how many viewers, followers, broadcasters, viewers to follower ratio, average number of viewers per game per broadcaster. It's got a bunch of in-depth stats, but looking at, I guess, Twitch strategy, it's really important if having a low number of broadcasters for picking a game title with a very low number of broadcasters and a high number of viewer average per 16-hour stream. Because that's getting more guaranteed exposure than, Fortnite, which will have like 500,000 people. That's a lot of competition. Microsoft.com, they have all their templates for business plans, pitch decks, sponsorship decks for getting sponsors, budgets on their website, and they're free to download. So Microsoft, and then Databox, it's and all these are free. So, no cost. Databox can connect with thousands of different platforms that have some sort of data to them. So I connected all my 3 social media accounts, and every day I get a notification with your new amount of followers, the amount of people that clicked our page, and just all the stats on it. And then Slack. Slack and Discord, they're essentially the same thing. However, Slack doesn't have, and the bot inventory is different. Slack has a bot marketplace that is filled with business tools. So I have actually every single one of the tools I just mentioned connected to Slack, including my Gmail. So I handle all my email on Slack. You can respond right from there. Databox, all my reports go to Slack. I actually have Slack connected to my Discord using Zapier. So all of our tickets go directly to Slack. Any messages to me, DM'd, go directly to Slack, and I handle everything from Slack. It's kind of my home.
Wow, that's incredible. Thank you so much. I'm glad I'm recording this. Now I have that all.
If you get any I guess comments, just let me know. I can definitely write something up to give to you to pass out for anyone who kind of needs a revamp of their marketing stack.
Certainly. Now I want to talk about you as a business owner, as an entrepreneur a little bit more if I can. So you've been doing this about 3 years, coming up on 3 years, I think it is, right?
Yeah, about 2.5.
Okay. And if you could go back in time, you could talk to little Matt back then, and you go, little Matt, this is all the things that are going to happen to you in the future, but this is what I need you to know. What would you say?
Don't second guess yourself and just keep doing whatever you're going to do. So like I have ADHD, so I was always kind of on my own path. If I wanted to do something, I'd get distracted and just go do it. And I think, even from all the distractions during Mainstage, just getting caught in a rabbit hole on Medium, or accidentally thinking I was going to send a couple Discord messages, and then we have, a 2-hour conversation. It's worked. I wouldn't have learned the things I've learned without kind of just being myself. Like even telecommunication engineer and lying to get that job, like I wouldn't have learned about the internet and how it's delivered and the speed of it. Like I learned so much about internet connectivity, and when it comes to gaming, like that's critical. Like I can't use it right now, but down the road that may come around to really solve an issue with latency and ping over distances. So even with exercise science and studying that in school, I know how the human body works. I especially focused on human performance. So, your brain will work faster working out, and injury prevention methods for carpal tunnel and, protecting your wrists and back posture, your neck. There's a lot of things that I can really circle back towards gaming. And if I wouldn't, going to college, Matt. So it took me 10 years to get my degree. And I started college as international business and German, and then was political science and pre-law, and then pre-med, and then exercise science and pre-med, and then just finished with exercise science and worked for my fraternity. And then took the LSAT, was going to law school, went to business school. And I don't know. I've just always focused on being the best at whatever I'm doing, but doing whatever I want, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, and that's an incredible life. You're so blessed.
I mean, I enjoy it. I like my life. I like everything going on right now. It's a lot more failures than success. It's months of pounding away at one thing, and you'll get it, and then something will happen that'll put you a couple steps back. But luckily, the things that work right push me far enough to head where I don't go back past.
Now, what you just said, you have more failures than success. That's not an issue, because if you have 100 attempts and 99 are failures and only one's a success, you only need one to make it big.
Yeah, and you learn 99 ways not to do it. They're extremely valuable lessons. Huge mistake spending money on an engineer not knowing enough at all about being a technical product manager, and ended up just pretty much getting manipulated for nothing, and paid someone I think seven to 10 grand and just got nothing for it. And that was a great lesson to learn at that point in time. Then down the road when there was product, and what I mean, like, great lesson to learn early. It taught me a lot. It definitely.
Now, do you have any advice for somebody maybe new on the journey of entrepreneurship?
Talk to strangers, message a bunch of strangers who are where you want to be, and don't stop until people, at least some, don't spam the same person over and over, of course, but, reach out, speak straightforward. You're like, hey, I'm really inspired by you. I want to be where you are one day. Would you mind giving me 5 minutes for an informational interview, and just helping me get started? And you'll be surprised how many people will return that and gladly be happy to get on a call. And some of them there's individuals I did that with esports who I text regularly now. The guy who introduced me to you, we met via the internet. And actually the guy who invested in my company, I've never even video chatted him. We met on the internet. It was all started with asking for a little bit of help.
Okay, now you say it's easy. But you also said that you reached out to like 3,000 people and got 50 to 60 calls. That ratio seems kind of disproportionate. Does it take a lot of time to do all this reach out? I mean,
I'll write something and then just hit command copy. And then, when I say I typed esports and hit enter, I started with the first person message, then I just go back and go to the next. And I just kept going that till I felt like I got far enough down, the pages, and then just went on to the next task.
So the answer is no, it wasn't hard at all.
It was just a time suck. It was just 90% of the things I've done so far have been just like kind of tedious time suck things. But at the end of the day, it is important to do. And I'm super glad I did that, because during that process, I learned subject lines. I played with subject lines to figure out what would get someone to open and respond. And I found a stat online, I think it was like 70% of subject lines with an emoji in them they're likely to get opened by us around 70% of the time. So I started putting emojis in all my subject lines, and they started working. So all my subject lines usually have emojis in them now. So it's just that, and figuring out, then the content of it. So I guess apart from ADHD, I have dysgraphia, which is grouped in with dyslexia now, but writing is tough. Like Grammarly is my best friend, and figuring out the way to articulate enough without going down a rabbit hole, or, I mean, using the wrong word. So it was practice. It helped hone a couple skills, some online communication with business professionals. And then those who I did get the conversation with, I mean, every single conversation was extremely valuable. I mean, some people that I never thought I would respond, and I'm just to keep it in anonymity for them, responded.
Wonderful. Okay, I don't normally ask this question, but I'm going to ask you because I think you might actually have an answer. What's your ultimate goal in life?
To be able to do whatever I want to do whenever I want to do it, really. And what I really want to do is I enjoy helping people. Like if I could help as many people reach their goals or dreams as possible, like I would love to do that every day. Particularly in some sort of business capacity, potentially incubator, help young entrepreneurs start businesses. And I mean, I'd be completely happy doing that every day. I mean, I really like what I'm doing now too. So that helps a lot.
All right, that's great. Well, this has been a fantastic interview, Matt. Thank you so much for coming on. How do people find you? Like, where are you at in social media?
I need to get better at social media. It's probably one of the things I'm working on the most, but I use Twitter, and my handle's at Snyderman, SNYDERMANE, and then LinkedIn, linkedin.com/in/Matt R. Snyder.
Okay.
If people want to email me, they can. Snyder@mainstagegn.com.
Beautiful. All right. Do you have any like closing thoughts or anything I didn't ask you think we still need to cover?
I guess a weird question. So in my fraternity, we had to do interviews with the new members, and this is only my favorite question to ask, and I haven't gotten to ask it in a while. If you could be any fictional character, who would you be and why?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
Oh,
yes. If I had any questions.
Yeah. Spot? Like, I'll give you my initial thought, the one that just popped into my head right away. Sherlock Holmes. And I think I'm a lot like you, actually. I'm one of those people who like just study things randomly. Like, oh, who are the Anunnaki? Oh, that's interesting. And just dive down that rabbit hole until you like learn all you can and move on to the next thing. But he was a lot that same way. He knew a lot about everything, and he was able to piece it together in just the most unique, beautiful way you could. And then he fell off a waterfall. So, yeah.
Okay. And then I guess just kind of closing off, like people who have big goals, I think you should share them, because then they become real. And people will give you feedback. Like, I think be okay with feedback. That's another thing. Especially with design. If someone gives you feedback and it may hurt your feelings, you need to keep that person close to you, because I mean, whenever I'd finish a design, I'd send screenshots or mock-ups to hundreds and hundreds of people. Oh, it's great. It's great. It's great. It looks awesome. No, it doesn't. I don't want that. I want you to be critical of this and give me some brutally honest feedback. Like, I don't like that color. And because like thinking about design is, I'm big on accessibility. So colorblind contrast, font size for individuals with poor eyes, voice control, key activation for it. We want to make sure everyone can use that. So if you have someone who gives you true and honest feedback like that, that should be one of your closest friends. And then I think the last thing would be, don't care what anyone else thinks. Like, you have one life, and it's kind of up to you to do what you want to do with it. If you want to change the world, go do it. Like, there's no one that can stop you. And if you need help, like, reach out to me. I'm definitely down to help at any time.
So true. All right. Matt Snyder, thank you so much for coming on with us today. We really do appreciate it.
And thank you, Brad. I appreciate you taking the time to reach out to me and do this.
Of course. All right. On that note, I will remind everybody, don't be just a gamer, be a gamerpreneur.